The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
At that time, Pilate said to Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you say this of your own accord, or did others say it to you about me?" Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingship is not of this world. If my kingship were of this world, my servants would fight, that I might not be handed over to the Jews. But my kingship is not from this world." Pilate said to him, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Please be seated. On the 10th of October this year, the young candidates for First Holy Communion and their families were presented to us at a special Mass. And with real joy, we accepted them for the Growing in Faith Together program. And we promised to support them with our prayers as they prepared to join us at the table of the Lord. Now, after 10 weeks of learning and praying together, we gather today for this wonderful celebration of First Holy Communion. I now invite the candidates and their parents to come up into the sanctuary. My dear parents, you have accompanied your children over these weeks of preparation for this sacrament of Holy Communion. Do you believe that by your instruction, your example, and your faith, that your children have grown in their love for Jesus and his presence in the Eucharist? The Eucharist strengthens us for our journey of faith, and it nourishes our love of God and strengthens us for the work of mission. Do you promise to continue to encourage, support, and affirm your children as they continue to live as faithful disciples of Jesus Christ? I now address you, my dear young people. You have come here today to receive Jesus in the Eucharist for the very first time. Are your hearts on fire with love for him and for the gift of this sacrament? Do you promise to try and grow more and more like Jesus every day and share your life with your brothers and sisters who gather with you around this table of the Lord? I now ask the altar servers to light the candles your parents are holding. My dear parents, on the day of your child's baptism, you were presented with a lighted candle, and you were urged to keep the light of faith burning brightly in your children. On this special day in their lives, I invite you to strengthen the light that burns in their hearts by handing these candles to your children now. Dear children, you have received these lighted candles from your parents. They are a sign of Christ's light in you. I invite you now to place your candles on the altar as a sign of your love for Jesus present here. My dear young people, I have a short little quiz for you, but I think it's an easy quiz, okay? I'm going to ask you to identify some people for us that we're going to put up on the screen. So we'll put the first one. Do you know who that is? Yes, Gabby. That's Queen Elizabeth II, hey? No, yeah. Queen Elizabeth II, eh? Queen of the United Kingdom. What's that thing she's got on her head? Jose? A crown, hey? Yeah. And apparently that crown is very heavy. So the queen's got to have a strong neck, hey? All those diamonds and fancy jewels. Who would like a crown like that? A hat like that? You would want, I would want one too. Me too. Good, Gabby. You others, you don't want something like that. Just think of the bucks. Hey? If you sold it, you would get lots of bucks. Okay, so that's the queen, and she's sitting on her throne. Right, so we've got 1 out of 1 so far. Who's the next? Who's that? Jaden, let's try you. Joe Biden. And who is Joe Biden? President of the United States. Now, apparently, the President of the United States is the most powerful man in the world. Huh? He has the biggest army and all the biggest and latest guns and planes and ships and all sorts of things. Huh? And so they tell us he is the most powerful man in the whole world. He doesn't look too upset about that, does he? Okay, so that's President Joe Biden. What's this? Do you know what this is? Can you see there? Do you know what's happening there? What's happening there? The questions got more difficult. Nonjabulo, what's going on there? Yeah, guess. It's a dinner party, but it looks like a fancy dinner party, hey? Look at all the flowers and the fancy things on the table and all the lights and fancy dress. Can you see who's in the middle of that picture? It's a bit difficult, but can you see who's in the middle? Yes. Queen Elizabeth again, that's right. So what's happening there? It's her birthday, maybe. Maybe it's her birthday. It's a state banquet. Okay, and in fact, it's the picture of the state banquet for the president of China. He is standing next to the queen there, and he apparently is also a very powerful man. Huh? So it's a fancy dinner, state banquet, with lots of diamonds and all sorts of things. Nice food, I'm sure, I hope anyway, and flowers. Okay, so you sort of got that. I'll give you half a mark, okay, Nonjabulo. Good. Right, we'll do the next one. Now, what's that? Now, this is a difficult one. It's a plate. No, okay, Tristan. Hey? A wedding. Yeah, maybe, but it's not actually. I tell you what it is. It's a bit difficult because you can't see a bigger picture. But what you can see is all those fancy glasses, which means they're going to drink lots, hey? Champagne, red wine, white wine, port, etc., 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 hey? And you see all the knives and forks, so they're going to have more than just one course, hey? They're going to have fish, and they're going to have red meat, and they're going to have chicken, maybe pheasant or something exotic, and then a nice pudding. Look, the big spoon at the top for pudding. And they're gold plates, eh? That's actually a state banquet for the White House, where the President of the United States lives. So if you were lucky enough to be invited to a state banquet at the White House, that's what your place would look like. Would you be keen to get an invitation to that? Yes. Oh, Jaden, you wouldn't know which knife and fork to use. You're a Liverpool supporter. They're not so jacked up with fancy dinners. Okay, so these powerful people in the world have very fancy dinners. Eh? All these rich and influential people have these wonderfully beautiful and magnificent banquets where only the special people, not Liverpool supporters, only the special people are invited. Okay, let's have another slide there, please, Jude. Right, who's that? Jesus. What's he got on his head? A crown of thorns, that's right. It's a very different looking crown to the Queen's crown, hey? Does anybody want that crown? Would you like that crown, Gabby? No. Jose? You don't want that crown either, hey? You do. That crown that makes you bleed. Would you prefer that crown to the fancy diamond crown? Which one do you want more? Yeah, now we're having second thoughts. Today we are celebrating that he, like that, on a throne of wood, with a crown of thorns, he is the king of everything. It's a very different king to the fancy queen on her throne with a cushion and with a crown of diamonds, eh? What is that? Let's go for Gabby. Bread, fish, and wine. Where do we hear that story from? What do we know about that? Jose? You recognize it from the altar. You're a good man. You're smart. Now tell me, when we had our lesson in the church, you told me what these things were. What did you tell me these were? Tell us what you said they were. They were Chinese dumplings. When we had the lesson in the class, we were talking about this picture on the altar and about the little boy who brought to St. Andrew the fish. And I said, what are these? And Jose told us they were Chinese dumplings. Maybe they are Chinese dumplings. That's the meal Jesus had. It doesn't look as fancy as the meal for the Queen and the President of China. It doesn't look as fancy as the White House dinner, does it? I bet those people who sat at that beautiful setting with all those crystal glasses and gold plates didn't get Chinese dumplings and scrawny fish. They got something much fancier. But the king of everything, that's what he eats. That's what he gives us to eat. Something very simple. And if we think about it, when we come to this table, where this King of the universe again feeds us, he gives us something very simple. Yes, it looks beautiful today, doesn't it? The flowers and the candles, the altar service. Father Malusi may disturb the beauty a little bit, but anyway, just close your eyes. The candles and the lovely altar, it all looks beautiful. But the meal is very simple that we get from here, isn't it? It's a small piece of dry, flat bread. It's not a Chinese dumpling at all. And some wine, which is not the greatest wine, hey? And in the time of Jesus, it wouldn't have been so sweet. It would have been a bit sour, bitter. That's what the King of the universe gives those who come to his banquet. But in fact, we know it's not simple. We know that it is not just bread and sweet wine. We know, we believe that this king sends his Spirit to change this bread and change this wine into his body and his blood. It's an amazing thing that happens, but it does. And so when we come to this table, we are in fact coming to a table that is more special, more beautiful, more wonderful than those fancy tables that we saw on the overhead. They are far more beautiful. And the food we're getting is far more spectacular because we're getting the king himself. At those banquets, you saw the people at the bottom end were a long way away from the queen. They most probably needed binoculars to see her. Only the very rich and powerful were close to her. And I suppose that's the same with the White House too. But here, we come close to Jesus and he comes close to us. So close that he gives himself to us. We don't need to look at him from far away. He is not distant. He is not so powerful that he's not interested in us. Instead, he gives himself to us. He comes close to us. He wants to be one with us. And so that's what makes what happens at this banquet table far more special than those tables, even though they have fancy food. This table, this food, is better than any food or drink you will ever eat. And if you are lucky to be invited to a banquet at Buckingham Palace or White House, just remember your old parish priest and know that it is nothing, absolutely nothing, compared with the food Jesus, the King of the universe, gives you today and every day.